Warning, this podcast typically features spoilers and strong opinions. Proceed with caution.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Two Grooms, One Plot, the podcast where two lifelong storytellers who are married talk about stories. I'm Pavi Proczko, audiobook narrator, author, performer, etc.
And I'm Colin Funk, childhood development expert and teaching artist.
And today we continue our series of episodes about Mary and George. With episode 3,
which is
Not so much love.
Not so much by love as by awe.
Thank you. Not so much by love as by awe. Let's jump into our switch hit synopsis.
Let's do it.
Okay. We start with a magic doll getting made.
Yes.
We don't know what that is yet. We find out, I suppose. But
then Mary gets made up and goes into court looking tragic.
She looks bad.
She looks out of fashion.
Very.
Everyone stares at her. They're like, you look gross.
Yeah, and then she gets drunk.
She gets drunk and she embarrasses herself.
And Lady Hatton's back.
Lady Hatton and throws her
such
some
a bitch.
snide little comments. It's amazing.
It's so good. Oh my God.
And then she ends up like leaving, thrown up in the, just like right outside.
Yeah.
Right outside of court. So it's her first time in court.
Yeah, her first time. And she's never been before.
But she leaves and pukes. And so she's like ostensibly embarrassed herself.
Yes.
Trying to like talk for her son.
Right.
Who's like, everyone's picking on me.
Everyone's picking on me. I've only had the king twice, and then I also jerked him off once.
And she's like, so you've had him thrice.
So
That's what
it's
you're
like
saying.
always round up.
So then she throws up outside and meets awkward guy.
Weird, awkward guy.
He's like, I gotta talk to you.
Yeah.
They have this like weird little rendezvous where Mary's talking to, we find out is the ex of Lady Somerset, who we just met this episode 2 in court, who is, her and Somerset together are horrible.
Oh, they're so bad.
They're just yucky and mean.
It's very like
but fashionable.
Team Rocket.
Team Rocket's useless.
Yeah, they're more useful. They're like this is like incubus succubus duo, and they're just like, they're awful.
So we meet Lady Somerset's ex, who's like, you crossed her in court, you got to stay away from her.
Yeah,
because she's gonna
cast a spell on you.
And Mary's like, you know more than you're saying.
Yeah,
he's like, I can't talk about it now, and he leaves.
Right.
Then we also are following, and then Francis Bacon. We meet. Who's the guy from episode 2
who has the
info on his mom, and essentially comes up to George, is like, I want to coach you. Your mom's not going to do it, but I think you can do this.
Yeah.
So let me help you. You have to stop playing this little sad.
Get what you want.
Sap. Yeah. Get what you want. Like, be powerful. Someday Somerset's going to fall, and you need to be standing there, and you need to be like,
you need to be ready,
standing proud and ready. And George is like, I don't know.
And so then he goes to a prostitute. George does.
Oh yeah, because they have this meeting, and so he ends up like sleeping with this sick little twink.
He's like, what are those marks? He's like, I don't know.
But if you want to hurt me, it's more. So.
And then turns out it was like some venereal disease that George gets sick from.
Terrible.
Oh, it's awful. I'm like, how did he even survive?
Jeez. Mary tracks this guy down again, this awkward guy in church, and is like, tell me the things.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, so the Somersets, they killed a guy.
Yeah.
They arranged it to happen. And if you want to know more, go to this
witch.
She'll tell you all about it. So Mary finds this witch, and is like, oh, I heard about this thing. She like gets her future read. But then afterwards, she's like, let me tell you what I see. There was this thing that happened.
And you know about it.
And they're probably not going to hang, but all of the people that helped out do, unless somebody's willing to provide the evidence against the rest. Wink, wink, wink.
Wink.
All of a sudden, Mary has this evidence that she brings to Mr. Judge guy.
Yeah, to Coke.
And
Yes.
it's like, hey, I have the evidence against them. Do not persecute them. Just hide the stuff in your house because your wife, Lady Hatton, is just like regularly has your stuff searched. And he's like,
Right.
no, she wouldn't do that.
And she's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. She's like, just do it. We'll see.
Yeah.
George shows up sick, trying to like, he goes to,
like,
he tries to do
what?
what Bacon says and goes to the Somerset.
Goes
It's like,
to-
I want to spend more time with the king.
You need to stop picking on me, but he like faints.
And the king is like, what the fuck? He just brought in all this sickness? This is
I was
horrible.
like,
Get
what
him
the
out of
hell?
here.
Yeah. And so he gets like put in bed rest where Irish lady's like taking care of him so she can keep like, so that Mary can keep tabs on him.
But essentially it works.
Oh yeah.
We find out that there's like Bacon visits him in the sick bed and is like, guess what? Lady Hatton started this search against the Somersets for some reason. They apparently have some evidence and they're going to get persecuted. And the king tried to stop it, but the council could not sign this. Like they couldn't pardon all of his old crimes. That's not something
Future
they could sign.
and previous crimes. Yeah.
That's not something that'll hold up. So they couldn't do it. So
he's
they're
going to
going
be
down.
tried.
You better get
well.
You better get well.
You better get
pretty
well
soon.
Yeah. And then Somerset comes to visit.
And then
George.
Somerset comes to visit.
And then they fuck.
Because Somerset is like,
Please,
I'm pretty.
I'm
and
pretty.
Maybe if
I'll even kill my wife. I'll let her go.
She's horrible.
I've loved you. I've always loved you, George.
I've been so hard on you because I'm in love.
I'm
with
in love
you.
with you. I love you so much. And
And
then
so
George
they-
is
they
like,
do it,
yeah. And then
and-
George is like, bye. You're gonna
'cause-
die.
Yeah, Somerset's like, oh, now that we've done it, like you're gonna put in a good word, and George is like, no, I'm
No,
not.
I'm not.
What are you talking about?
And also,
you're gonna die. I just wanted to say
you're
I
gonna
fucked you.
die, and you're gonna also have VD as well. But you know,
It doesn't matter. You're gonna be dead.
yeah, you're gonna be dead. So yeah, they we see Somerset's tried. He's found guilty.
They're
the
all found
wife is
guilty.
found guilty. Everybody's found guilty of witchcraft. And
The witch wasn't on trial. If you
the
notice.
witch was not on trial. No, and it was the lady from the craziest cheekbones and jaw in the world from Wheel of Time.
Wheel of Time.
Oh my God, Leandrin from Wheel of Time TV series. That
great.
facial structure is very intense.
It's amazing.
It's pretty. It's pretty great.
I've never seen anything like it.
No.
It is incredible.
Yeah. So then
She's great too.
yeah, she is. Mary returns to court in a better dress,
Yeah, looking a little better.
looking a little better.
And the king is like, I'm so sorry that I didn't listen to you when you were trying to tell us that the Somersets were mean, and now it's too late, and you know George is all sick, and it was
I don't
too
know what
late.
to do. And she's like,
no worries,
"Don't worry
look
about
over
it."
there,
and it's George as
just
well.
there.
And she's like, haha, Lady Hatton, George is okay. And she's like, oh, wow. Look at you.
And then George is like, let me play for you.
Let me play the viol for you. And it's
so silly.
so he's like playing, his like eyes are closed. It's very dramatic as we watch
And Mary
all
and
of the
Bacon
Yes.
during this
They have a
little
meeting.
meeting. And
she's like, leave
Bacon's
my son
like-
alone.
Yeah, because so they essentially threaten each other. Because
Yeah.
Bacon's like, okay, I thought we were on the same team, but then you did some like crazy shit.
Yeah. She's
And I don't
like, you
think you
apparently
gotta
got
step
people
back.
killed.
And she's like, are you threatening me? And he's like, it seems that's the way to go.
Yeah, it seems like that's the
She's like,
the
should I
season
threaten you
for it.
back? And he's like, I assume you already have.
I'll assume you already have.
And I'm like, I love this. I love it because it's like the way they're talking to each other is like it's veiled, but it's not at all.
It's not veiled. No. And they're just like, it's like, you don't need to like threaten each other when you just like already know that both parties have nukes. You're just kind of like, yeah, we don't even have to say it.
Yeah.
It just is.
We're going to be a little bit at war right now.
Yeah.
We're just both kind of,
We're
we have our own agenda. They're not completely against each other,
right.
but we're
A little
each,
bit.
we're each about to like, if we come up against each other, we're
There's
going to see who
sparks
comes
will
out.
fly. Yeah, they're holding the little magic bean over the butter battle wall. Butter Battle book.
Yeah,
There's
sure.
like the little magic bean and they're just like holding it.
That's a very specific reference.
I know it. I always loved that book.
I
just like it's that image of them just like standing there holding that bean. I love too. That's like, oh well, we see Somerset die. Lady Somerset gives birth to the baby and then dies. I wonder what's gonna happen to that baby.
I thought about that. I was like wondering if that is going to be
a
plot
thing?
point, or if it's just like we're just going to show you that they didn't kill this pregnant woman,
right?
That, like it could go either way.
It could go either way.
Like, we're just not going to we're not going to let you assume that we just killed a pregnant woman. And
there's something like I don't know, more or less horrible about making her do it, and then I don't know. There's like it's a crapshoot. But
I mean, it's less horrible.
Yeah,
like it is tragic watching a mother give birth and then getting dragged away from her baby, and
right,
killed.
to be hanged like 5 minutes later. Yeah.
Yes, there is a tragedy about that, but like it's still like
you
like,
should probably
I'm
do
glad
that.
they let the baby get born before they killed the mother.
Yeah. Unfortunately, very beautiful Somerset is gone now. He is dead.
Unfortunately.
I mean, he's horrible, but he's just pretty. That's all.
It's unfortunate.
Because he's pretty, and he's not going to be on the screen anymore.
There's
going to be other pretty people. I know, but you know, in episode 1 we talked about he was my favorite.
Yes, I know. Are you braced to call back to that?
Yeah, it was a callback to episode 1. I love this idea that like
I love your little notes this episode.
I know my notes are like I know I'm just like I have so many notes. George and Somerset, fuck, is what it says.
Well, they do.
Mary confronts Bacon, and I just love this idea that it's like, he's like, wow, you look a lot better this time. Or was that all deliberate?
Yes.
And I wonder if it was.
That was my number one question. So I was going to ask if you thought it was deliberate.
I don't. I think because as we talked about in episode 2, I really liked that idea that like watching her kind of stumble through a little bit.
Yes.
And we see her be like very nervous at the beginning of this episode as she's like getting done up, and she's like, God, I'm getting this makeup done. She's like, you're ready for the king. You're going to be all good. And then she goes and like makes a fool of herself. It tracks better, I think, in my mind, that she's like, she thought she was doing something else.
Yeah.
And it was like, things are not going well. And it's not like a super mastermind who like knows every little thing and can predict everybody's behavior.
Of course.
It's like someone who's like, I'm going to try to do this thing. Oh, that didn't work out. I have to find a new avenue now. Right. And I'm stronger for it. I'm stronger because I had that event, but I don't know. She is ruthless, but it doesn't strike me so much as like a sociopath like that. Like,
no, and I don't think, well, there is a little bit of, I don't really care about other people's feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can be a sociopath and still like care about people. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
It's not like you're just like able to kind of like separate it.
Yeah.
It's not that clear cut. So I think there are certainly maybe narcissistic tendencies more than.
I don't think she anticipated that first meeting would go as badly as it did.
No.
Maybe as you said, like when she's able to see her weakness, and she'll lean into it.
Yes.
So perhaps that's why it escalates, where she's like, okay, I miscalculated with this makeup and this outfit, but now I just have to lean into the embarrassment because like I'm not going to get what I need. Like I could find that to be a little more plausible, where it's like, oh, I didn't know this was going to go badly. Now it has to go really badly.
Right. Now I have to play into the victim.
Yeah.
I have to play into, like you said, the king loves an underdog, and you really played into that.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like it makes sense that she would, and I think you're right. I think like in the end, what reads to me is like she's kind of really great at reading the situation and just steering it in the best way she can.
Yeah.
And part of it's just like it's not meant to. I don't think it's meant to be this like mastermind. Mm-hmm. She has these superpowers.
It's improvised for sure.
There's an improvisation, but there is an element of, I mean, like it mirrors the history of it, where we're like, we kind of know the series of events, and we don't really know why or how.
Yeah, we have to kind of like justify why this happened,
right?
Like, how did we get here?
Well, because I thought about this. I'm like, it feels really easy that she was just like, she swooped in and just like found this evidence and like put them to jail. That seems a little easy. But then I was like, this is a historical event. They know what happened.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there are records about at least that.
Right.
So I'm sure that's not that far off.
Right.
Like Somerset was taken down by a trial. You know what I mean? Like that is what happened historically. And like that, it being based on history allows, like, obviously, like storytelling, you have to be careful not to make it seem too convenient.
Right. But sometimes if it's like real, it's like,
history,
well, it might be a little convenient.
Because it is.
Yeah.
Because like that was the plan that was set out and it kind of just worked.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's just what happens.
Right.
It's something that dawned on me during this episode was the passage of time. The way they're like, this middle stuff isn't important. The time between last episode and this episode, like it feels like at the end of last episode, he's like, look, I'm high and mighty in the I'm really kind of in it. And the next episode, he starts and he's like, no, I'm not.
I'm getting beat up by everyone.
Here's everything that happened since. These are all the terrible things that have happened to me. But like, that's not the story.
Right.
That's just like, we're catching up to where we're starting this series of events. It's not really, yes, now that we're in the court, now that he's a part of it, we have to overcome Somerset.
Right.
That is now the main topic.
Yeah, we're like getting to the first episode, or the second episode is like really kind of the call to action. We've like entered basically Act 2 kind of, where it's like now we're getting a lot of B storylines. We're getting their allies. They're building their little alliances and they're finding unlikely allies here and there, and we're seeing also a few of the difficulties that they stumble into.
Yeah, and some of these things, like, there are so many weird things that happen that I'm like, it's so weird that he gets sick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was like, the first time I watched this episode, I'm like, is he like do we really believe that this family just like knows to play the victim with the king now because like it keeps working? And so like he comes and shows up and looks sick and pathetic, and even if it's like a weird thing to show up sick.
Yeah.
Is it?
I mean, it all kind of played to the witchcraft bit, right? Where it's like
that's another thing.
They pluck a hair, and that I was going to mention that because I was like, have we entered into like a weird fantasy world now? Do they believe it was all witchcraft? They obviously did. They do, but are we supposed to believe? Like, well, it's just used as like it's just all coincidence. It's used as evidence. I
think it's smart that it's like, yeah, because we don't have the evidence to support these things. The only thing we have is like these weird things happen and that witch is making a doll. So we're just connecting the dots just like they did. Mm-hmm. We're not doing any like, oh, we are smarter now, So we're going to look at it through a little bit more scientific lens.
Sure.
Because that's not important. That's not what the story is.
Yeah.
Yeah, witchcraft, they're talking about witchcraft, and their fear about witchcraft is real.
Right. And it all that helps get George kind of into that victim position. And
it also it is something that like everyone's kind of scared of. So it plays in court.
Yeah.
And like, you're playing with witchcraft. We really can't have that.
Right. And it's interesting that it's like, I guess maybe to their credit, really the thing that makes them, that really gets the Somersets to fall is the murder. Like it's not, well, they cast a spell. They did, like they talk about having it be a spell, but like in the end, they just murdered someone. Like they just had someone killed. And it's like, yeah, it was magic spells and potions and things. But it was like an apothecary was like, yeah, I mean, it could be a poison, the thing that I gave you, but it has
many uses.
But it has many uses. It's not just a poison. But it's like they follow that trail and they're like, and also witchcraft, but mostly just murder.
Right.
You know?
Which is why it was smart in the end to be like, yeah, we're going to go to the witch who has some like evidence against them and some letters between the two of like, because the wife, I mean, like, I think they did target the wife as like, she is playing with witchcraft.
Yeah.
She has this relationship with this witch. She has like, and
these
who knows if she's
lackeys,
like put a spell on the king. Cause even the king was like, do you think they put a love spell on me?
Yeah.
Do you think I was really in love with Somerset?
Right.
There's enough fear that like drives, especially that conviction.
Right. Right.
They let us kind of dip into the world without giving us that like contemporary, like we clearly know it wasn't that, but
Yeah.
you know, like look at them freaking out about it. Like it's not really that. It's like this is the evidence we have.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter whether or not the witchcraft is true or not.
That's so interesting because I was just listening to something or reading something about how like the printing press is like around that time and like the Tudor kings and queens put like really heavy limitations on it. They tried so hard to censor the printing press because just like how today there's like a ton of like garbage that gets posted on the internet, a similar thing equivalent happened when suddenly anyone could just like print anything.
Right.
And it caused so much havoc because of witchcraft. Like it was like the instructions for like how to find witches was like disseminated and then people would just like do it. And it just like chaos. And how it like actually like, I mean, it like led to like the 30 Years' War. And in this case, like a fall from grace for like a very powerful person.
Yeah, it didn't hurt that they actually committed a crime.
Of course.
And, you know, bragged about it.
Yeah.
That was not smart on their end.
Not a good idea.
But but they did. I mean, it did feel like, I mean, especially what's his face, judge guy, like flexing his powers.
Oh yeah.
He's like, this is where, I mean, he really does. He shines in court. Like,
yeah. It's like, this is my wheelhouse.
She says, she's like, court makes a man out of you. And he really did. He's like, look at how good I am in court.
Yeah.
And just is like leaning into all of them.
Yeah.
And
he's kind of like a little bit meek and like weak, like a mealy.
Well, especially in comparison to his wife.
Yeah.
He seems like such a little weenie compared to Lady Hatton. But then when he's in court,
he's like, oh wow. Yeah. This is where
this is why you're up there.
Yeah.
This is why you're kind of leading this. So he was really leaning into like, your husband clearly knew all these terrible things and the company you're keeping and just really leaning on the witchcraft, especially with the woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting.
Very interesting.
Because I mean, it's just like, it allows us, when we're using that language, sometimes we forget what's real and what's not. It's just like when you talk horoscopes, sometimes you just buy into it. You're just talking and you buy into it.
Right.
It's not like you don't, if somebody were to stop you and be like, okay, this is weird, right? It's like, yeah, it's fine. But like, you separate it. You don't say like, well, clearly we're wrong about it. It's like, no, we're seeing patterns and we're seeing connections, and this happened. Like, who knows? But also, but like, it doesn't have to go there. It doesn't have to let us like go to that place. We can just like live in their thought process for a minute. It's just like when we see things and it's like, oh, we believe that God is doing this, or like in religious stories and things like that. We're like, we can drop into those religious stories and kind of just like be there.
Yeah. For what they are, it kind of has its own place.
Even if you don't have the same religious ideas, like you can like, you can do it without being like, this is, or like, or a historical thing, or like a real life thing in context of people who believe in this. And why, like, it just like to see, it makes sense for the storytelling to just inject us into the world without pulling us out and saying like, but look at what's really happening, because it doesn't matter what's really happening.
Right.
It matters like how they're using their own perceptions of everything.
Yeah.
Because they do for a minute mention at the church when she's talking to awkward guy. I don't know. I don't know what
Awkward
his
guy.
name is.
Yeah. I wrote down who it was, I think.
But
Chamberlain.
But
No, he's the Chamberlain. He's the Earl of Essex.
the Earl of Essex. But he's like so weird about being in church, and she's like, and he's like, don't say all of these things. And she's like, you're the one talking about witchcraft and magic. And he's like, well, not in church. I don't talk about it in church. Yeah. And it's just like, that's very funny to me. And it's like, just like a little moment. Well, cause she's like, God loves an honest tongue. And it's like a very, like, she's good at just like,
yeah. Well, we kind of have a little bit of like a modern, she's a little ahead of her time. She's like a little bit modern. Like in the way she thinks about these things is not, you know, compared to lots of the other people where she's just kind of like, this isn't,
well, I mean,
this isn't real here, you know?
She had the, you know, like we know she didn't grow up with the same pedigree. She doesn't like, she's just scrappy.
Yeah.
So she's had to kind of like, she's had to be flexible in thinking.
Right.
She can't be stuck with one idea because she is good at getting in with people.
Right.
So she's willing to be flexible to what other people are thinking and feeling.
Right.
While pushing them.
Yeah. And like using their convictions and things to kind of like get what she wants. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very smart.
Very smart. Anything else from this episode? Oh, there's a good line. Well, maybe I'll save that. Let's move to our superlatives.
Let's do it.
Oscar moment.
I really want to say there's a moment in that first scene where Lady Hatton just like sees her and just like attacks Mary in court.
Yes.
Excuse me. And I don't remember exactly what she says, but there's just like, she's just like so happy to see Mary just like flailing, and it's just horrible to her.
Yeah.
And like, I just don't even remember what she said, but it is so that the like, and how like hot you can see Mary get it. Like, just like, it's just a tiny little moment where I love seeing the, like, it's like you said in the last episode, somebody come like this actress with Julianne Moore and how they're like, she's really like holding her own.
Man. And you see the electricity between them.
Ooh, it's so good. They have great, excellent chemistry.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, they're horrible. The both of them are horrible in their own ways, but they're powerful, and they're really like, they're not like hiding anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of what we talked about. I mean, in every episode,
sure.
We're seeing a lot of what's happening.
Yeah,
kind
that
of
it's like, that the intrigue is not people lying or withholding things.
Right.
It's just being in a position where they can say the thing, and it's like your move. That's so interesting.
It's so interesting.
I love that.
Well, 'cause
I love
like,
Lady Hatton so much. Oh my God.
Especially in court where it's like, that's what we do. We go around and we gossip. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
We don't have to make any other show, or that is how you, I mean, I'm sure that's why Lady Hatton is doing really well for herself, because when she's in court, she doesn't have to like look at you and be like, you're terrible, you're horrible. She gets to look at you with a smile and just gossip right to your face, like, and just say it, because like, that's what how you do it in court.
Yeah. And
she isn't just good at it, she enjoys it.
Yes. Yeah.
She's like, she's in her element. It is so well done in that scene where like you just see, she's like a vulture. She's like, just swoops in and is just like goes for the kill, but in a very specific way that is very different than the way she did it in the previous episode.
Yeah.
And it is a small moment, but I thought it is like very moving.
It's also a nice like counterpoint when Mary comes back to court and has that like mirrored moment and Hatton's there. And even like her response there, like she still maintains her power. I don't know if she's necessarily like flustered so much when like George is revealed, but like there is like a, wow, you're doing better this time.
Yeah.
There's almost something insulting about that too, where it's just like, oh wow, you took notes.
Yeah. Because she really doesn't believe that Mary is going, she still doesn't believe that Mary is a threat to her. And I love that exchange of lines too, where she says like, you're still, or like, I think Mary's like, I'm still going to get your daughter to marry my son. And she's like, essentially like, over my dead body.
Yeah.
Like not as long as there's warm blood in my body, something like that.
Yeah.
And Mary goes, as long as I understand the terms.
Yes, it's so good. What a good line.
Which is a great line, great response to that. And Lady Hatton's response is, oh, you do have some wit.
Yes.
I'm like, ooh, so good.
Oh, it's
What
so
a
good.
great
She's like
moment.
not phased. She's just like,
Love.
oh, there is some wit.
There is some wit in you. Like what? Something. Oh,
Wow.
so good.
It's just so mocking. Oh, so you are clever. Oh,
But,
so
like-
good. It's like undermines that.
acknowledging
Yeah,
it.
it is acknowledgement, but also like undermining. Lady Hatton's so good.
Yes.
I think my Oscar moment, I'm going to give it to this, at the beginning of the court scene. I actually really love the interaction, like the faux duel. I mean, I hate that they use the viol bows. I'm like, don't use the bows
But
for
they have
sword
this little
fighting.
play acting moment with the
but-
Somersets.
Yeah, they have this play acting, and they're like sword fighting, and then wins, but then like they fake like killing him.
Yeah, they
the
fake
king,
killing the king.
and Lady Somerset like slashes his throat, fake slash, and I'm like, oh, it's so ominous
Yeah.
that you're like seeing this almost like a prophecy. Like it's just so interesting. But like this was their they have designs on the throne or something. It's so strange.
Yeah, it's very
Very
strange.
eerie.
Yeah. And I think like in that moment, Lady Hatton puts it in Mary's mind. They're like, not the first person they've killed.
Yeah. She knows everything.
Yeah. It's curious. I guess like, okay, let's move on to unearned moment.
Yeah. Unearned.
My question is, what is Lady Hatton's motive after finding the stuff to start the trial? To start the exposure
That's
of
a
them.
good question. I wonder if she,
Because we don't see any of that.
I mean,
It's part of that passage of time we
right.
talked about. Like, that's not important. We just like, that happens.
yeah,
We know it happens.
I wonder if she, like, she is still married to Coke.
Yes.
And so his success in a situation like that reflects on her.
Right.
I wonder if that's part of it. I wonder too if she just like likes the drama.
Sure.
Having that power over people.
Yeah.
Although she doesn't ever exercise it really. You know what I mean? Like she...
So why? I guess like it's just as an open question that I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
They didn't set it up for me to be like, but why? Yeah, she would search his effects and find this thing And then she just like, is it just that she's like a gossip and like wants to tell everyone that she actually has evidence about?
Yeah.
Like, because like what they said is like, we can't have him persecute until it's made public.
Right. It needs to be made public.
Because if you just go to the king and it's like, we want to persecute that, he's going to be like, no.
Yeah. There's like, we're going to keep it under wraps and no one's going to know.
That.
Yeah. But
For
once
Somerset.
because she's the rumor mill.
And because she was able to get it to where, like, now there's a public thing, and they're like, "Okay, King, we can't let you pardon this guy."
Yeah, I'm sure that's probably what it was.
Just a rumor mill thing.
It must.
She just likes the.
That's all I can think. That she's like,
because she obviously knows already.
Yeah, and if everybody knows, then they can't.
It's like a kind of like a secret, like, and there's no evidence, so it's like,
right.
Guess what? It kind of happened. Maybe it didn't. I don't know.
Yeah. But then now she's like,
no
oh, guess what? I found evidence. My husband had it in his house and I told everybody about it.
Yeah.
And now the fate is sealed.
Right. Because it's
the king's hands are tied.
The king tried.
Yeah.
So yes, my
that's
like
interesting.
My unearned is just like, I want to know just a little bit about that piece.
Yeah.
A little bit more. I'm like, I'm curious about it. I want to know her piece in that.
What's her kind of general, what does she actually want? Other than just like not what Mary wants for her daughter. Like what is her end game? I'm curious.
Yeah.
I think my unearned moment is when Coke gets kicked in the face, and it's like right at the end of that stupid little sketch. That I like. That's my Oscar moment. And then it like ends with this like, he's like spinning the king around, and then Coke's having this conversation with Mary, and he gets like kicked in the face and he has this like crazy bloody nose. And I just like thought it was dumb. I don't know.
Yeah.
It didn't really accomplish much for me.
Well,
it's like a way to transition out of that conversation. Well,
I think it's showing that like he is desperate to be looked at more favorably in court. He's like, I gotta go find my buried nuts. Like, he's a
little embarrassing.
He's emasculated. He doesn't feel like he really wants to prove himself.
Yeah.
And so he's ready to take on this case. He's ready to show himself.
Yeah.
Because he's like, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to look weak. And so he's like, don't worry about it. I gotta go do it. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I get
just like someone get it's another moment where I'm like, okay, it just like feels a little sloppy. It's not unlike the moment where it's like, you're getting old and fat, and then he like gets up to have a fight, and I understand motivation wise, like in the story, why that's an important moment. I understand that we wanted to see him get emasculated, using the device of like they're swinging the king around and he like slapstick kicks him in the face. I'm like, I don't love that.
Mean, there's something about like the king just like does what he wants, and court's just this like place where like nonsense is happening.
Yeah.
Because it like follows that they're just like play acting. They're doing this like weird scene out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And someone just like gets kicked in the face and happens to be the person who's talking to Mary. It just like feels very, I don't know. It didn't bother me that much.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
It is like very intense, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, and it bleeds a lot. Yeah. I was like, oh my God. That was intense. What's our intrigue moment? What are we most excited to see now?
That's a great question. I guess at the end, the king is like, oh, I'm going to give you all the things. And I guess I'm like curious to see, like, I want to give you titles, and I want you to be my closest advisor. And I'm just like, I'm very curious to see like just some normal kid just like thrust into those positions.
That's interesting. Yeah, for sure. What does that look like?
What does that look like?
Yeah. What does it mean to have titles and all that stuff when you're just like hanging around the king anyway? Like you don't even have to.
Right.
Like you have titles and land, but like no one's there because
that's the whole part of the plan. It's like you get close, so the king can just like hand you these things,
right?
So that you have stuff forever.
Yeah,
you're not just like king's plaything until he's either sick of you or he dies, and we move on, and then you have nothing left.
Right.
You want to get in his good graces, so he gives you stuff.
Yeah.
Land, titles, money, whatever.
Sure. Yeah. So that your mom doesn't go destitute. I think I I'm just excited to see this like new, like Mary's like building her network of rivals. It's like this.
Yeah.
Bacon now is in the mix.
Yes.
And we just see that.
Now
see if
rival.
those heads butt.
Lady Hatton,
Bacon. And Bacon. See how that's gonna go. Yeah. All right.
Great.
Wonderful. That's episode 3 of Mary and George. Thank you so much for tuning in to Grooms One Plot. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe on YouTube, social medias. Thanks to Chicago Podcast Studio, our social media maven, Kaylee. And come back next time. We're going to do episode 4.
Yeah.
All right. I'm Pavi Proczko, and I don't remember what I was going to say. You go.
Now you go.
Ugh. Okay, hold on. Yeah, I'm Pavi Proczko, and always remember when you're counting times you've had sex with the king, always round up.
And I'm Colin Funk, and remember, you can't trust witches to keep your secrets, I guess.
No. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Two Grooms, One Plot, a Pavitas Productions project, hosted by Colin Funk and Pavi Proczko. This podcast was produced by Chicago Podcast Studio. Our opening cartoon was created by Gloriu, and our theme song was composed by me, Pavi Proczko. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite listening platform. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Two Grooms, One Plot for updates on new episodes and behind-the-scenes content. If you have any feedback, comments, concerns, or kudos, you can email us at twogroomsOneplot@gmail.com. Please rate and review us wherever you can. It would help us out a bunch. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.